Human beings are searching for the personal experience of reality. They are seeking to come to understand themselves, to find a reason for their own existence.
And so you go round and round and round, ever chasing the illusion that there is something outside yourself, outside your here and now, to be attained that will make things better.
No guru, no method, no teacher, and no nothing else either.
All right, welcome everybody. We got a special guest with us today. We have Angela Kerfoot. Angela, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm managing to stay out of trouble so far today, so I'm good.
Nice.
I like to start everything off out of the gate. Like, what are you grateful for in this moment right now?
Oh. Do I want to go deep or not deep with that? Grateful for my health and the ability to be working towards living the best life I can live by always staying informed and experiencing new things that make me feel uncomfortable that I can learn from.
Awesome. No, health is definitely a key thing. And I think a lot of people that never have had health issues or like been out of that kind of loop don't necessarily, they take it for granted sometimes. Like I feel great, but when you feel like shit or you've been through some difficult things,
yeah,
it really is a gift.
Yeah, exactly.
The same thing says about like working towards what you want. I think a lot of times people don't necessarily know what they want or how to achieve it, or they feel like pigeonholed into this life that they don't want any part of. And it's like, really, you have to create what you want and actively be pursuing it. Which is something I didn't get for a very long time.
Yeah, I can identify with that in different ways myself.
For sure. What quotes do you feel most moved by, like 2 or 3, and can you explain what they mean to you?
One of my favorite quotes is Hunter S. Thompson, "The music industry is a long plastic hallway filled with pimps and thieves and men who die like dogs, and there's also a negative side." And now that I haven't thought about it for a long time, but it's about the music industry. And, I have like chased the music industry all my life until actually the last year. Now I'm every 3 months I'll do a show. But anyways, that one I feel is so true. And I love that he tops it off with there's also a negative side, because that's so true that those are not even the real issues of what it's like going through music as an artist. So on an emotional level. So that one, I also like, I like a lot of Ben Franklin quotes. I'm trying to think of one in particular that stands out to me right now.
You can always paraphrase one too.
I'm thinking. Oh, another quote. I don't know who this is by, but it's actually like on my door as I go out. I don't know who said it, but I got it at a pod share, doing like a little adventure pod share time in Cali. And it says, "There is no I can't, only I don't want to." Which isn't bad if you don't want to do something, but it's nice to leverage yourself off that to try to identify which one it is you feel. So we'll leave it at that too.
Yeah, I like both of those. I always like Hunter S. Thompson because he's very gritty and had a good sense of humor. Hands down, one of my favorite writers. And then as far as the can't thing, that definitely is something that I've really had to learn myself, like putting all these self-imposed limitations. And it's, like you said, it's different if you don't want to do something, but limiting yourself and saying that you can't do something is more like saying, I don't want to do the work required behind achieving this, which is fine, but understand it's a choice.
Yeah. He's one of my biggest inspirations. I still collect Hunter S. Thompson pins at the quarry when I go. And I also, a friend of mine got me this, I forget for what holiday last year, and it's a copy, it's a really old school copy. It's like a reprint from from early 70s. So
okay.
Anyways, as you can see, it's lived a little bit, but
absolutely, that's definitely that book is near and dear to my heart based on personal experiences.
Yeah, mine too.
So could you explain who you are in like a broad sense and what you do in whatever way that you feel comfortable?
I feel like I try to explain this to people a lot and to myself. I'm a social worker. I've been into social work since my very, I guess actually when I was 19, 20. And I'm also kind of a bizarre type of local musician in Las Vegas. Bizarre compared to 400 other acts that are out there that are not that are local music acts, not on the strip. That's a lot of bands. So I'm a solo entertainer that does projects every couple years, always have since I was like 18. And I'm genuinely passionate about community, but I'm not one to go. Sometimes I'll do art events that are like inspirational to the community, like large scale installations, and I'll assist with those in various ways and getting help and entertainment around those. But sometimes I will also get in the nitty gritty of social work. That's not all the pretty stuff that looks cool in the city. It's more like the helping veterans, mothers return to the workforce, people with slight learning disabilities like I had growing up that, just need a little repeated instruction before they can genuinely get a job and be ready for it. I like touching on the like genuinely doing community work and stuff that benefits people's lives, most importantly, but also the economy. So that's pretty much it in a broad topic.
Absolutely.
I would say that I would answer that to anyone, but probably in just different words, depending on how good I felt about myself that day.
I can definitely relate to that for sure too. I definitely think that social work is an important thing, and it's like I don't do that professionally, but a lot of what I'm trying to do with doing this or like other things that I do is kind of make people feel more comfortable with themselves about their experiences, whether it be addiction or mental health crises or things like that.
Yeah, same, yeah.
Being like on the front line of that as much as I can be, because I still have to have a life too. I like how you kind of get to explore that through doing music, I would say in some ways too, by exploring who you are and revealing those elements of yourself and getting comfortable with presenting yourself like as one of the more different acts. That also opens other people up to exploring themselves more, I would say.
Truly is someone that stays weird and is not when it comes to my art, and truly someone that is not afraid to get my hands dirty and get involved in people's life when working. Well, I work through Goodwill, but we serve vocational rehabilitation, which means I help people that want to go back to work and become independent do that. I teach and assess. So I guess that's what I mean by someone. I'm not saying that people doing. I just want to say that like sometimes in Las Vegas, there's a ton of people here doing sometimes what I think is like hearts and flowers social work that is not always helpful to community, or they do only that and they act like they're making this huge difference. And there's fucking 10,000 people doing that out here. But the reason I wanted to say this in comparison to Ohio, which I also know a lot about, and it's a big love. I love that state. But they have so many issues, and I think that what you're doing is crucial right now because there's fucking no art and culture scene there at all. There is, but it's really spread out, and it does. And Cleveland's trying to do it now with their industrial area, but it's really slow to start. And I've even had some friends bands from here that have moved to Cleveland, so that's been cool to be getting the insight on how the culture is working there. But I feel like what you're doing, and I hope you do even more, is so important for or even like coordinating art gatherings, music, paintings, all that stuff, because like Ohio is in desperate need of that. And that's why drugs are also, people are going to do their drugs, but it would be nice if people did have opportunities to give music outlets, because I know that music outlets have definitely saved me from a larger amount of drugs that I might have done than what I did do when I had issues back in the day. So
no, certainly creativity has been something
I think it's different depending on the saturation of it. You know what I mean? In a city this big, they need a lot of other services besides that, but I feel like Ohio needs that more than the other services. Does that make sense?
No, completely. It's like we have a lot of the stuff that Las Vegas needs, but we also need a lot of the stuff that Las Vegas kind of has in some ways. Like there is like a big culture there for art and differences and things like that. In Ohio, they have like more, I don't want to say resources, but they have a lot more of the structure that maybe Las Vegas lacks. But we need more of like the wildness and like self exploration and self expansion type stuff.
Art, or like some kind of art gallery that's not all covered in police or suspicion or issues or whatever. Just like, you know, we have hundreds and hundreds of galleries in Las Vegas. But I know, for instance, in a town nearby you recently, Hubbard had like an art gallery for a year, and they took most of the commission off of paintings, but it was still a start. But it lasted for like 4 months. And that's a horrible sign, but probably a horrible choice for the art to be displayed too. Like I know you don't go to bars, but getting bars and maybe restaurants to show more of it like they do out here would help a lot without anybody having to. It's going to enhance the business establishment, and it's not going to cost the artist anything.
No, absolutely. No, they did that at Humboldt Brews when I worked out there in California. They would have like local artists displayed.
It's
I think
like
that it would
everywhere here now. It's changed over the since you've been here. This place has just blasted to the moon with arts and culture.
No, that's awesome.
It is awesome, but I think it just the health of the community and the happiness of people just seems so much different because of it, and I would love to see more of that in other states.
One of the nonprofits.
And do it myself.
What's that?
Go ahead. What were you saying?
I was going to say one of the nonprofits that I like do some volunteer stuff for, like they actually have started doing this art event, which is a family member of someone who had mental health issues and committed suicide. They donated money for this art thing, and we'll have like an art contest for mentally ill people. Okay. And we're going to actually start having it at like an art gallery next year, and it's going to be cool to see that kind of grow. And I think maybe one thing I want to do if I ever get more time personally is maybe try to find a venue where I could do something similar to kind of like the acid test type things that you did with the one band that you performed with, because I think that would be so cool. But do it in like a environment where there is no drugs or alcohol or anything like that. Like Absolutely. That would be surreal.
Because those things give you psychedelic vibes in general. And psychedelic, the word that doesn't have to encompass drugs, even though unfortunately that word is so attached to drugs. It's like life in itself, entirely sober, is psychedelic as hell. So
yeah, Terrence McKenna had a thing where he said the whole psychedelic experience is about love, and it's like on this journey through recovery, I've really connected with different modalities that are incredibly psychedelic, completely clean of any substance. Like I've had a weird life, even without using any drugs and being mentally well. I've had a lot of weird shit happen. So it's cool. How are the potatoes doing?
They have a little bit longer than I thought. I have to put them on medium. I'm like, yeah, it'll drag out boiling them, and then I shouldn't have gone that route. So now they're taking twice the time.
It's all good.
Yeah, there's no rush on them. I've had a lot of coffees, so I probably won't be hungry for a while.
I've been drinking too much coffee lately too. My stomach's been kind of hurting because of it.
I know I get acid reflux from it sometimes.
I get like a stomach ache. I don't know. It's weird. Did you feel like you were different than others as a child?
I did not, as a child, feel like I was different. But due to the wrong influences from a lot of adults when I was growing up, to say the least, I had a hard time engaging with people, and I had issues with memory from utilizing suppression, like as my earliest memories, and to cope with things that are going on in my life at the time. And I never felt different when I was in school. And I had all the same desires I do now. But when I got into my 20s, looking back, that's when I realized that I was different. And there were a couple other people that I could think of as having been at my level of different then for poverty reasons or abuse reasons or parents on drugs or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. But I'd never thought that then. No.
Yeah, it's kind of like you can't see the forest from the trees type thing.
I fit in with everybody, but I hung out with people 5, 6, 7 years my senior when I was in high school, even though I fit in with everybody there. and played the whole game of that vibe. I didn't really spend a lot of time with people, 1 or 2 people out of my whole high school that I hung out with ever in high school. I lived a very adult life since I was like 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't think I was different now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I might have the upper hand now because I started early on a lot of things, whether it's my choice or not. Maybe. I try to look at it that way.
Yeah, you got to find the asset in every situation, I feel like, and there usually is some kind of asset if you look deep enough.
Yeah, totally. Sometimes I just make them up if I need to.
Yeah, I agree. If I believe it enough, it's true, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Putting it into the computer.
Yep. Do you have any odd experiences, like paranormal experiences or things like that you were willing to discuss?
I think there's some part, I don't want to say I don't believe in ghosts and spirits, because I do, and I believe if someone's inhabited somewhere and their vibe's been there, that you could decide to also feel that vibe. Ambiance is a thing. Someone's life in a place is a thing, especially if you can see their items that were there during their life. But I don't particularly believe in ghosts, but I've had a shit ton of paranoid experiences in my life. I probably will continue to have them, and I definitely see shadows and things like that all the time. So that's my ghost, is just paranoia itself, and I know that, so that helps.
For sure. I get it.
But no, I haven't.
That's fair. I know I've had a lot of weird experiences, and it's just like, I believe that they are something. What they are, I don't really spend a lot of time.
I think it's mental projections. Not that I'm saying that that's your case, but I, like, as a whole with that concept, I think it's just people's projections of their own demon projections, whether it's conscious or subconscious, or whether it's karma or not, or whatever. Just things that are put into the brain, crime shows, all that shit. Like, I just think it's, I think seeing visuals and things that aren't physically there is 100% possible, of course, hallucinations, obviously. So I think it's more of that line, but I can't prove it. So.
No, for sure. It's one of those things where I think that the general understanding of a lot of that stuff is incorrect, but I also think that the general disbelief of those things is incorrect, where it like falls in the middle, where it's like, nobody really knows. It's probably not what anybody thinks it is on any side of it. And it's just cool to like view whatever it is as whatever it is and not try to understand it. There's so much shit going on in actual reality that I'm not tuned in with, that I only see things from my vantage point, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if that makes any sense. But
yeah, it does, because that's all you have is your own vantage point. So
for sure, yeah. After like losing my mind and like going through psychosis and stuff, it made me realize like how fragile reality is, and how like I don't really know anything. I think I know things, but I don't.
Oh, I thought of the third quote because of what you said. It's also Hunter S. Thompson. It's there's no way to explain the edge, because the only people who understand it are the ones who have gone past it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite Hunter S. Thompson quotes.
Something like that, huh? Yeah, okay. Might be a word or two off.
Yeah, it's close enough.
Psychosis myself. So, he's a very, Hunter S. Thompson, I think, should be recommended to anyone experiencing some psychosis.
Yeah, I definitely think that he kind of peeked behind the veil of things.
It'll make you feel like someone gets you while you're there. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Or if you've ever been a fan before and then you have it, you're like, okay, I know what this is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Or even like reading some of like Ken Kesey's work, or like different people like that. Completely illuminating. They were contemporaries. I want to say that they even met at one point. Totally going off on a tangent. I think that there's a story of them meeting.
They better have.
I want to say I read it. I don't remember if it was in one of Hunter S. Thompson's books or Ken Kesey, but I think it was when Hunter S. Thompson was writing Hell's Angels. He ended up going to Ken Kesey's ranch or whatever that he had with the Hell's Angels, and then this whole event transpired, and he got really uncomfortable and left. Yeah. I think that's kind of when he said that like the whole hippie movement that was like dying essentially. Just a weird factoid that my mind is filled with.
Yeah.
What superpowers do you possess, or what superpower would you want?
I wouldn't say having a bleeding heart is a superpower, so we'll move on to the one that I would want. I would like to, because I'm so aware of mortality, and I'm not like afraid of it, but I would like to have the power to live for a couple extra 100 years, and not, you know, in a decent enough health to where, you know, I wasn't having to where I could keep wandering for a couple hundred more years than the probably 70 I hope that I'll get. So that would be my superpower, to have a longer life.
That would be interesting. I think I always like have toyed around with the idea of mortality and stuff like that, or like immortality or extended life. And the thing that would be difficult for me, I feel like, is losing people that I grew attached to. But I mean, you'd also find new people, but like the overwhelming amount of loss you would witness in that time period, like that would be so difficult. Like I have a hard time losing things in like my regular lifespan.
It would, because you'd have to lose like your whole network all over again. Networks, various ones. I always, compared to people, you know, I probably know, I don't know, 15 people that I talk to on average, but I'd say like a couple of them are my closer friends, and I'd say like beyond that, I'm acquainted with a couple thousand people out here. So, where was my point with that? What were we talking about before that?
We were talking about like the amount of loss you would have to suffer.
Amount of loss. I've had conversations with probably more people than I should about loss. And I mean, I've lost over 20 people close to me in my life since I was a small kid, some family, some not. But people that I was close to, and a lot of people haven't lost anyone and they're in their 40s. I'm like, that always amazes me.
Mm-hmm.
Because then again, you maybe live into 300, maybe you're only going to lose 10 people that really affected you in 300 years. You know what I mean? It just kind of depends on the external factors or whatever. If you are affected by loss or whatever, because some people can really cope with that in a different way. But anyways, I think it would be worth the loss to stay around for that long.
That's a fair point. I mean, you definitely have to like practice
Be rough.
like the Buddhist principle of non-attachment. And I think that after you experience it enough, you would recognize that it's just like a transitional thing, and it's like it is what it is, and it would probably not be as sentimental.
You'd have a lot of extra wisdom, right? If your brain would keep up with you in your environment, so you could perhaps, I mean, people are stubborn, but perhaps you could help with a large enough amount of things to where it would make it more worth the situation that you were going to have lost. I don't know. This is quite the Sin City game we're coming up with here. I'm pretty excited.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to think about it. Like one of the things I'm thinking of is like, I'm turning 34 this month, and it's weird to think about like how crotchety I am already, where I'm like, God damn, these kids. Back in the 90s, we had music and we had our shit together or whatever. And then to think about having like an extra couple hundred years of that, like how what the hell is wrong with these people? Back in my day.
Like if you were the only person that had that superpower, though, you would have insider tips on so many things that you would be great at stocks, because you would really fucking know your trends. You'd be good at a lot of things.
That's
Once
fair.
You get the superpower, so only you have it. So that means, after the first 80 years, you probably would get to not work the next couple hundred years, which would be tight. You could go speak around the world, and you'd see how much fun that could be.
That's a fair point. I'm like focusing on the negative elements, and you're illuminating the positive ones. Like what circumstances do you feel shaped your life overall? You can get into that as in depth or as surfaces as comfortable, obviously.
I'll make it quick. Overcoming addictions several times as a younger person shaped my life. Being mistreated before I even could form memories for years on end formed who I am. Probably formed different emotional balances that would normally be formed at that age. But that's always given me an edge on coming up with words for songs, because my feelings can get so much. I literally have to write them out. So,
I get that.
I also grew up around a bar and restaurant. and also a floral shop that my mom owned. And, you know, I love crafts, I love flowers, I love gardening, and I also have always known how to cook, and I work and provide customer service and be around a lot of people, which is probably what led me to stay in Vegas, because it felt kind of like home. So I think that those core things at a young age are what shaped me. I'm still that person. Yeah.
Those are awesome answers. I really dig that. What songs or bands have lyrics that most resonate with you at this moment?
I really love the presets right now. But like,
all right. So the last thing I got before whatever happened, I don't know if it was my end or your end, but you said the band that like has the lyrics that most resonates with you the most is the presets.
Yeah, and it's just it's really their music, I guess, that resonates with me the most. So
okay,
their vibe.
If somebody was going to check them out,
that's a hard question for me because I don't have. I love LCD Sound System. I love Hot Chip. They all kind of have a similar vibe. I kind of like all their lyrics. LCD Sound Systems. He writes books. The guy that writes all the words and a large amount of the music, James Murphy. So I'm going to see them at Hollywood Bowl pretty soon, actually. They're only doing a few U.S. shows. So, and I haven't seen him in 8 years, and I was big on him for many years. Anyways, he kind of addresses people from like an author standpoint with his writing. So I like his stuff for that reason.
That sounds like a unique approach for a musician to do.
And the way he kind of recites it, he's not always singing. It's like a half sing, but he just is so good at that half spoken, half sing approach, whether he's holding a note or whether it's, you know, a quick note. So.
That sounds kind of neat. I'll have to check that out. If you could like tell some people like one album to listen to by the Presets or any of those other bands, what album would you say is the best one for people to check out? Your own personal opinion.
I would check out LCD Sound System, Get Innocuous.
Okay. One thing I wanted to do real quick, since I forgot to do this at the beginning, is go through today's tarot card and this reading from this book called Cherokee Feast of Days. I don't know if this is going to align with you or not, but the card is the Seven of Stones or the Seven of Cups. And it is the Serpent of Visions. And it says, in the labyrinth of desires and possibilities, all the mirrors reflect the image of our face, indecision, fear of success. And then like on a deeper level, if you view this card as the Seven of Cups, which is what it relates to in traditional tarot, cups is like the element of water, emotions, and relationships. Cups are water, or like I feel, the heart. Sevens are like potential and ambitions, and key meanings are opportunities and extremes. So the a more elaborate definition, if viewed as the Seven of Cups, is choices and confusion. While the Seven brings the potential for amazing opportunities, pardon me, these options and offers are insubstantial. At present, it's not clear what's feasible and what is fantasy, as everything feels up in the air. Just like the floating cups on the card itself. Be discerning and find out what you can about each possible path, but ultimately you'll need to choose by paying attention to your instincts and emotions. This is not a test of logic. Go with the flow and trust your inner knowing. Don't rush. In relationships, the card can show new doorways opening as joint finances improve. The Seven is also the card of the visionary and shows the beginning stages of a new project when anything is possible. Dreams and visions are additional interpretations. So I don't know if that has any relativity to where you're at in life right now.
It does.
Cool. When I put the video up, I'll put an actual image of the card up too.
Oh, cool. All right.
And then for February 18th, this is from Cherokee Feast of Days, which is like a daily meditation based on Cherokee wisdom. It says, we need to get our priorities in a row. A lazy person never has priorities and never plans anything. He lets circumstances make all his decisions and believe fate has the final say. Even though he has had 1,000 nudges to do a certain thing, he ignores them because it is only himself dreaming again. If we cannot hold on to a plan long enough to do anything about it, then we should write it. Write it so plain that when we read it, we run. We run toward putting into practice what we set out on paper. It is essential to decide the ultimate outcome of our lives. If we do nothing, then that is a decision. Kind of like the quote you actually mentioned at the beginning, which is interesting. Like how it was about like not saying can't, but not wanting to. Our lot in life is what we make it, using every delay, every pain, every injustice as fuel to fire our determination. And then like the little quote at the end of this is, let the young men of this nation remember that idleness leads to poverty. Industry is honorable and leads to contentment. And that was said by Chief John Ross.
Nice.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there because it felt like it needed to be. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Just a couple more questions and I'll let you get on with your day.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, go ahead. But I'm gonna turn you around for a second.
You're fine.
My thing over here. Okay.
So what philosophy, spirituality, or religions do you feel most aligned with your understanding? And please explain them as they apply to you.
I kind of like, I guess I'm a spiritual person. I just try to focus on spending a lot of time in nature, and for me that's meditation without even trying. I like meditating too, but I spend as much time as I can in nature every week, especially on the weekends, and that's my religion, honestly. That's all I need.
I totally get it. I identify with a lot of nature stuff myself. Like I don't have a fixed belief system. Mine's like a hodgepodge of everything. Yeah, nature's my church for me. I'll just go kick it.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is kind of a more difficult question. Okay. What do you perceive as your life's purpose? I feel like this is a heavy question to ask somebody.
You know, what's crazy about this question, and I don't mean to go too far with the sadness, but when my mom passed away a little over 4 years ago, during her last year, I always saw her reading these books, trying to find her purpose. And it broke my heart to think of reading that at a late time. It also broke my heart to think that I think it's okay for some people to not have a purpose and to just be a good person and be happy. And that's a purpose in itself. That's the best example we could give. You know, so luckily I was able to have this conversation with her, etc., and remind her of all the wonderful purposes she had. I was blessed to have had that time. But I think that my purpose is to identify with people and say that yes, I have been there too, because I've been so many places since the youngest age, and that no one should ever go there at. But I feel like that's my purpose, to identify with people, whether I'm getting paid for it or whether I'm not.
No, absolutely. I like to touch on how you said like the purpose is kind of just being. And I think that a lot of people need to identify with that. Like you don't need like this heavy-handed thing. If you feel called to that, that's great. But like, make your purpose your life. Like just being you is enough. And I think more people connect with that element of things.
Not hurting anybody is a great purpose.
Absolutely. And being kind to yourself and loving yourself and like accepting yourself through all the different shit you've been through. Like
best example you can give.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also like how you talked about like connecting with other people through your suffering that you've been through or difficult situations, and letting them know that other people have been through that and they've been able to
would save a lot of the world's murders from happening if those people had been identified with. If everybody was willing to share that pain, the world would honestly be a better, if they were sharing it not for attention's sake, but for comforting another person who has, you know, a situation's sake.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, like for me, it sounds kind of dark or macabre, but like I connect with people suffering way more than good shit. Like good shit comes naturally. Oh, look at that sunset. It's like, yeah, that's cool. But like, tell me how you've hurt and how you felt like, or been through insanity like I have. I understand that. Like sunsets are naturally beautiful to everybody. Not everybody wants to talk about, dude, I felt like freaking killing myself, or like, this is the lowest I felt. Like I felt that like,
you're like, look, I overcame, and ta-da.
Yeah, right.
I got over myself in these other ways, and then I'm doing these other freaking things, like ta-da. You know, like that's the best thing you need to share. Like I've been there. You're gonna come out of it, and then you can also do this. No, you're never gonna be 100%, but there's a get to a level that you can accept and get back on with your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Become an advocate through everything you've been through. Don't stay a victim of it.
And don't hide. I mean, there's a time and a place to share shit, but just don't hide in it and act like you've always had your shit together, you know, because that's bullshit. If you've come far and you can really identify with people, you, like I say, you've seen over a couple different edges, and that's why you know what it could be, but you know how to make it better.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I really enjoy about doing this is when I started this, it was right when I started recovery and like integrating myself back into society. And I've never put a lot of polish on it. I try to be 100% transparent and like authentic with everything that I'm going through. So it's like, I'm me. Like people don't get to see like a facade of who I am, but like I put it out there so people can identify with it because
exactly.
I just find that more real.
That's how you find tribe or future tribe.
For sure. Yeah, I'm still working on that. I've always been a loner, so it's like four quarters better than 100 pennies for me any day.
A lot of times loners are tribe for someone else. We're their tribe, but they're not necessarily our. Yeah.
I have this concept that people like me are dispersed very widely because not from like a sense of I don't get along with people, but you don't need that many people like me within a confined area. It's better to spread people like me out. So
I feel the same about myself. Yeah, makes sense.
You don't want to have things too concentrated, I guess.
Right. Sure.
I feel like you answered this question already because you kind of just said being yourself and doing what you do. But like, I'll ask it just in case you have anything you want to add to it. What do you need to do to feel that you are working towards your goal, like your purpose?
I need to be exercising. I need to be sober, you know, and I need to be sustaining myself financially. I need to have lots of art I love around, and I need to have drum machines around, and a few good people in my life, and safe food to cook, and my pets fed, and it's that simple for me.
Just the little things and self-care, really.
Yeah. Yep.
I get it. It's funny how like when you're younger, or at least for me when I was younger, it was like all this extra shit that doesn't mean anything, and now it like is really simple and refined, like quiet space, time to reflect, like ability to be able to help somebody in some way, like money to sustain basic needs and maybe expand my reach to help people in other ways. But it is a lot more simplistic than a lot of the bullshit I used to pursue. If you had to describe your personal philosophy or condense your life experience into like 2 or 3 words, what would it be? Condense 34 years of living into like 2 or 3 words, please.
I actually did this recently while I was joking about what I would want. I'm not going to have a headstone, but if I did, what it would say, you know? Mm-hmm. And it would just say, I won. And that answers that question too.
Absolutely.
Like no matter what happens to me here out, that I've had it's been a rough time, but I've had an incredible life, incredible experiences, and I feel like I won. So if anything ever happened to me, that would be the only thing I want people to remember about me, is be like, Ange had a good life. She won. It's fine.
Absolutely. That's one thing that like my grandparents, going to see them and they talk about like the good life they had, all the varied experiences they've had. And it's like, they don't talk about the money or all this material shit. It's just about getting to live the experiences, the connection. And it's freaking surreal to like be on that end of things now, where it is like, I don't know, to feel like I'm squeezing the essence of life. Like I definitely get that feeling. And I think that's a really cool way to put it.
Thanks. Yeah. Trying to think of all the ridiculous things it could say, and that's such a simple thing, you know. And just like if people had a memorial, I just want like signs posted up, like that everyone, and if people want to take them home, they can. It's just little signs that just say I won, you know. Not what that means to them.
With like your face kind of like that stencil of Che Guevara or something like that, but put I won underneath.
Oh, sure. Several different styles of the pieces. Maybe we could do like an art theme thing, and then people could take them home that needed a piece of me, you know.
I dig it. Who inspires you?
trying to think of like the last time I could really answer that I felt that inspired. People that want to collaborate on stuff without having the whole people that want to collaborate on music without thinking they're already famous and losing their minds over it inspire me. People that have gone past that point of that mentality that I also went through in my early 20s. Some people go through it later, but people that inspire me, people that like to write something and they get it out there, but they're not like egotistical about it. That's what inspires me.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a cool
People
place
that
to
don't
be.
over-sponsor or market to me inspire me.
That's definitely a skill in this day and age, I would say.
It's not popular to do it that way, but I think it's better quality.
Yeah.
Less busyness that's unnecessary.
Yeah, for sure. If you're putting out something good, people will naturally be attracted to it rather than like feeling compelled to waste money promoting it. And then as soon as the flow of advertisement stops, everything else falls off. Just make something good and people will find it, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah.
What book would you recommend to others, or like what book or books have impacted you the most?
I usually have them sitting out. I'm going to go two places with this. One, I read a book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0 about 10 years ago. No, 6 or 7 years ago. That impacted me a lot because I never thought about emotional intelligence before, and I knew I had issues with it, but I didn't know where to go with it, and I didn't think enough to look it up on the internet, So when I found that at an airport on sale, it changed a lot for me. It didn't change my life, but it changed a lot for me. And then from there, I got into going to like seminars and stuff that are like as modern as you can get with coaching on self-improvement and stuff like that. I'm going to one in Chicago next month, and it's called, in a couple weeks actually, and it's called, it's just called Transform.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a book they send you before you come. I got this as a free gift. I just had to get my flight, so it's no big deal. It's like an $800 course. It's 3 days where you have like teams, and they pressure you to, it's really about learning how to be emotionally in sync with people, and not to where you could redirect someone if you needed to, or to where you could not become upset. It's just, anyways, that's a basic way to put it. It could also be used to improve your business. I'm going to improve my career, for instance, but also my personal relationships. It's called the Right Foundation, WRIGHT. It's a husband and wife, or brother and sister, I'm not sure, but they have the last name, that have been running these seminars throughout the U.S. for, I don't know, so many years, and they're published journalists and everything you could think of, and they're just, they're life coaches, and you go there and you set goals, and they put you in a lot of crazy situations, and you come out better from it. So emotional intelligence and just connecting with people in general, and how to make it useful for both your personal life and for your business life, is the kind of stuff that I've been into for like the last couple of years.
Okay, yeah, I dig it.
A lot, yeah.
My mom actually suggested that emotional intelligence book to her to let me read at one point, and this is where I was at. And I was like, "Fuck this! I'm not going to take anybody else's suggestion. I'm emotionally intelligent," and it's funny because it's still sitting there, and it's like maybe I should.
It's an incredible book.
Maybe I'm at a point in my life where I can actually like get something from it and not be such a curmudgeon.
I understand that, yeah. That makes sense, though. I get it. I'm like that about especially a lot of self-help stuff, but and I'm not into self-help stuff. I particularly look at stuff that's designed to improve career and personal relationships, but I'm looking for career. I'm looking to make more money, and I'm looking to learn how to get more clients and things like that.
Yeah, to step up your game.
My friend that invited me is a lawyer who's getting ready to do service for the Army once a month, where she's like serves as a lawyer for people in the military. I have no idea what that entails. Probably interesting. But she invited me to go before she goes off to boot camp, and we've always resonated as professional women. So this is something. She's from Chicago, but she lives here too, and she's been going to these things for a while. So she got me into it, and it's not a pyramid scheme thing. It's just legit like high-end life coaching seminars and stuff. TED Talks, if you will, but more intense.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
I'm terrified. I guess I don't necessarily like this kind of stuff so much, but it's what I know I needed. So I went that direction with books and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Growth occurs outside of your comfort zone. I've been finding that out a lot lately. So I have two more questions for you. One is, I'm pretty sure that I have your music link in the description of the podcast in general, because you did the outro song for this season. Is there any other links where people can connect with you, or if like somebody else wants to chat with you, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you or find other stuff that you're doing?
I'm going to post my new album that's out on March 5th to Bandcamp, probably for a couple bucks, under Ange, A-N-G, Kerfoot, K-E-R-F-O-O-T. But also searching my name on SoundCloud will show a lot of collaborations I've done worldwide, and it's everything on there is like, different producers and stuff, which was fun. Music producers I wrote. It depicts the info in there, so that's another good place. And people can just hit me up on Messenger on Facebook. I respond to that on my art page or my personal page.
Okay, what's the name of your art page?
It's under my name too. It's Ange Kerfoot. Yeah, it's all just across the board. So,
keeping it simple for sure.
Always, yeah.
Well, before I say this last thing, I just want to thank you for taking the time. It's cool to like get to chat with you. We haven't chatted in years like this. And it's cool to it's like an early birthday present for me. Like I was so excited to try to schedule it around my birthday and everything. Like it made my day.
Sweet. I really enjoyed it too. So
yeah, thank you, baby.
Yeah, I love your work, man.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe at some point you can come back on and we can have a less directed chat and more of just talking on topic or something. Because I'm always looking for people to come back on. I get tired of hearing my fucking self-talk. Just hard.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're very welcome. I'm incredibly grateful. The last thing I really have to ask on air is I've asked other people to close in their own words. You're very welcome to say the last word and close us out with a message or whatever, if you want.
Okay. Okay, you ready? We were somewhere around Barstow on the edge of the desert when the drugs began to take hold. I remember saying something like, I feel a bit lightheaded. Maybe you should drive. That's all I got.